Hello lovely students, welcome back to another exciting literature class. Today's class will be looking at an interesting poem titled The Song of the Woman of My Land by Oumar Farouk Sesay. Oumar Farouk Sesay. Behavioral objectives. During the course of this lesson, we're going to be looking at the background of the poet and the background of the poem. We're also going to be analyzing the subject matter of the poem as well as the summary. We'll be looking at the poetic devices employed in the poem as well as Sesay's use of imagery and symbolism in the poem. This is Oumar Farouk Sesay. This is Oumar Farouk Sesay. We're going to be doing a brief background of the poet Oumar Farouk Sesay. Oumar Farouk Sesay was the son of Alhaji Al-Hussein Sesay and Hajia Umu Kulthum Sesay. He was born in Tokondi district in Freetown of Sierra Leone. He attended Maburaka Government Secondary School for Boys and Ahmadiyya School in Freetown, Sierra Leone. He studied political science and philosophy at Fora Bay College. Let us now look at the background and setting of the poem. In Africa, the women suffer oppression and subjection by the men. The women are not allowed to go certain places, they are allowed to say certain things, they are not allowed to do certain things. Despite everything, they have continued to endure their condition, singing away their sorrow and hoping for a change. The setting of the poem is in one of the villages in northern Sierra Leone, most probably Masingwi in Tokonili district from which the poet hails from. The women's main occupation in this part of the country is farming and agriculture, as they not only use this to help in financing businesses with it, but also contribute to the development of the society at large. Now, we will be reciting the poem, The Song of the Woman of My Land. Like a sculptor chipping away at bits of wood, time chisels away bits of their memory. It strips away lyrics of the song of the women of my land, leaving only a fading tune echoing the song. They sang in the fallen fields about their life songs, of how they plowed the terrain of their landscape, for memories of lyrics lost in the vast void of time. In those days when a song behold their souls, and dereliction decapitated the epic of their lives. With a song, they sponged off their anguish to behold their collective pain, to celebrate their gains, give lyrics to the tune of their lives, cheat the tyranny of time, and commune with the yet unborn, to give meaning to an epoch lost in antiquity. We will continue the poem, The Song of the Woman of My Land. Today, the tune roams the forlorn fields, like their souls looking for lyrics, to tell the tale of the servitude of the women of my land, who plowed their soul and soil, for a song to sing the story of their lives, the song of the women of my land, left in the memory of my mind. Now, feeding the verses of poets, it echoes in wriggling in rhythms and melodies, hollering in distant tunes. In places far afield the fallen fields, where the song of their lives died, the stuttering lips of my pen and the screeching voice of my reed try to sing the song of the women of my land. In verses far from the theater of toil, where they let a song that now roams the land, stripped of lyrics like a scorned ghost. The tune turning the tenor of my verse is all that remains of the song of the women of my land, who labored and died, leaving a dying song, the dirt of their lives. So that's the poem, The Song of the Woman of My Land. We're going to be looking at the subject matter of the poem. Oumar's The Song of the Woman of My Land talks about the subjugation of the women to tons of humiliation. The women suffered, they worked really hard, provided for the family, catered for the needs of the children and the men. And despite everything, they were still seen as inferior. They were still oppressed. The society did not accept them. They were always toiling for the betterment of the family, while the men would cross their legs on the table and wait to be fed. We can see that women have been treated inferior to men in many ways, ranging from job opportunities, political office, religious leadership, and so on and so forth. Let's look at job opportunities. We see instances where women are not allowed to take certain positions because they feel they can't handle it, or they are seen as the weak gender and they can't carry such job responsibilities. Or we see instances where women are sexually harassed to get jobs. We see political offices. That one is the height of it. We see women not being able to take political position because they feel they can't make good decisions or rational decisions. They feel that women can just decide to make irrational decisions. They feel that women cannot hold certain political positions. They can't become presidents. Even religious leadership. In the churches, you see that women are not allowed to take leadership positions because they feel they can't bring the church out of crisis. They cannot fight for the betterment of the church, or maybe the mosque, the leadership of the mosque, maybe a certain group of people. Women cannot take certain leadership positions in various spheres of life, which is very, very misogynistic and very backward thinking and barbaric. Although the modern time have got them to speak up over these grave humiliations. Modern times we have what we call feminists that always believe equality of both genders. However, we still see that a part of the society still accepts that the women should be under the men. The women should be seen as the weakling. The poet expresses his disappointment over what he considers to be a very unfortunate development in the land. Despite having gained independence, he still sees that there is a backward thinking to the status of men and women in the society. You see some parents giving birth to girls and boys and then not training the girls because they feel, the girls will go to their husband's house, they will not take my name anymore, their husbands will take care of them, so why spend my money on them when I can spend my money on the boy who is going to carry my name and keep providing for the family, which is so backward. It is about the fact that as time passes by, his people are gradually losing memories of the great deeds of the women who once lived and toiled in the land. We see women, beautiful women like Queen Yoko, we see women like Queen Amina, we see women like, there's so many, Dora Akunyili. These are prominent women in our society, both Africa and Nigeria, that have been better. They have done a lot of good deeds for the country, and yet it's like their memory is fading off. The poet is showing disappointment for the fact that women who have done great deeds in the country and in the continent at large are forgotten. They are being forgotten. Even their songs are being forgotten. That is the subject matter of this poem. That's the reason why Oumar Farouk Sesay decided to write this poem, The Song of the Woman of My Land. So we're going to be analyzing the poem stanza by stanza. Now, in the first stanza 1 and 2. In stanza 1 and 2, we're seeing the sufferings of the women being forgotten, just like the bits of wood being chipped away by the sculptor. When a sculptor is making an object or sculpting an object, it cuts off some debris and throws them away. So the poet is comparing those bits of wood that are being thrown away to the sufferings of the women being forgotten. We are forgetting the sufferings of the women like we forget the bits of wood that are being cut away by the sculptor. The poet in stanza 2 also says that as the sufferings of the women are being forgotten, the lyrics of the song of the women of my land is also fading, and all that is left is the fading tune. The song is now fading off. Nobody is remembering the song anymore. All that is left is just the fading tune. People just hear the tune like you're hearing a song from afar. So let us look at the other stanzas. We look at stanza 3. Stanza 3 is showing us the sorrowful song in sorrowful fields about their lives, their present devastating situation. We see the women plowing the fields, suffering, singing while plowing the fields. You can see how happy they are while working to provide for the family, but they are not remembered. It is very, very disheartening to find out that after all the years of suffering for your family, you are not remembered. The song was about their oppression and slavery in their own traditional African society. Despite being oppressed by the whites, they are still oppressed in their own African society by their own immediate family. They are thinking about how they have suffered for their family, and yet there is nothing to show for it. There is no respect coming from the family. There is nothing, no praise, nothing. They are singing as they are working. The struggles of the women to always take care of the home. It's not being remembered. It is not being valued. That is what the poet is trying to tell us and complain about in stanza 3. Now let us look at the other stanza. We have stanza 4. Stanza 4. Stanza 4, this song is used to remember the women as time has taken their memory. The poet is trying to make us remember the song. Since time has taken away their memory, this song will make us remember them. Now let us look at the other stanza. Stanza 5. In stanza 5, the lyrics to the song is being forgotten. The only thing that is used to remember the women, the song, is being forgotten. The lyrics to that particular song that we used to remember the women is being forgotten. Obviously, there is a song in Sierra Leone that is used to remember the women, but the song is gradually being forgotten because time is evolving, and as time is evolving, people are forgetting that song. The coming of a new age has faded the lyrics of the song. Like I said earlier, as we are evolving, the song is fading. The song is now a dying song. The song is now a dying song. It's like everybody's just forgetting that the women, the great deeds of these women have been forgotten. So now let us look at stanza 6. Stanza 6. Stanza 6, we are saying, the women who usually sing in the fields are no more. And as such, what is left in the fields is just the tune. And the tune is also looking for the lyrics. So the women have been forgotten totally. And when you go to the fields, the only thing you remember about them is the tune. As you stand in that field, you remember the tune of the song. And you're trying to look for the tune. The tune is just there, hanging, looking for the lyrics. It has to blend the lyrics and the tune together to remember the song of the women of the land. The tune is looking for the lyrics so that it can tell us the tale of the servitude, the oppression, and the suffering of the women in the traditional African society. The wind is the only thing having the memory of the women, because the wind brings the tune, and the wind is the only thing that is making us remember the women. Now, in stanza 7, we are seeing the memory that is left in the wind is now used by a poet to form a rhythm for the women. The poet is trying to remember the memory. The wind is bringing that tune, bringing that memory, and the poet is trying to use it to form the rhythm for the women. The rhythm is now going to the forlorn fields where the song died, so that as the rhythm is going there, the poet can sit there, use the rhythm to find the tune and the lyrics, so that the song of the women will not be completely forgotten, and he can write it down in verses, and people can keep singing it to remember the great deeds of the women. So we will be looking at stanza 8. Stanza 8. The pen and the ribs of the poet tries to sing the song of the women, but not in the forlorn fields. Now, the poet has gone home, he has tried to remember, and then with his ribs, the screeching of his ribs, he is trying to sing out what he could remember. He hummed the tune of the song to remember the women. As he's humming it, the stuttering of the lips of the pen, he's using his pen to write down what he can remember. The poet compares the poem to a scorned goat, an animal that has been shunned and abandoned by everyone. The song of the women of the land have been shunned by everyone and everything. So that's what the poet was trying to make us see in the poem. So the poem is like a story telling us about the women that have toiled, for Africa and are being forgotten. The poet is making sure that they are not forgotten, which is why he is trying to rewrite the poem. Now we're going to be looking at the poetic devices. The poetic devices in this lovely poem. Our first poetic device that we're going to be looking at is the language of the poet. The choice of words are very simple. The language is rooted in the culture of its setting. We see words like dereliction, decapitate, wriggle, holler. They are used to convey the story of oppression and lamentation. And we're going to be looking at the mood and tone of the writer. The poet is in a sorrowful mood. The poet is in a sorrowful mood. It is this mood that gives vent to his lamentation about unwanted and unacceptable marginalization of Sierra Leone women that led to slavery and oppression. Now, we're going to be looking at the figures of speech in the song The Woman of My Land by Oumar Farouk Sesay. The first figure of speech we're going to be looking at is metaphor. Metaphor, line 10. When servitude cuffed the ankles of their soul. Line 16. Cheat the tyranny of taste. Another figure of speech we're going to be looking at is simile. Lines 2. Like a sculptor chipping away at bits of wood. Lines 25. Like their souls looking for lyrics. Lines 42. Stripped of lyrics like a scorned goat. Another figure of speech is personification. Line 2. Time chisels away bits of their memory. Lines 37 to 38. The stuttering lips of my pen and the screeching voice of my ribs. So the stuttering lips of the pen doesn't have lips. The screeching voice of my ribs, your ribs cannot talk. These are the figures of speech we can see in the poem The Song of the Woman of My Land by Oumar Farouk Sesay. We also have the use of imagery. The imagery of slavery and servitude that existed throughout African history is created. The poet piles images of sorrow to evoke sympathy in the minds of the readers. Now, evaluation. We're going to be commenting on the poet's use of alliteration and repetition in the poem. Comment on the poet's use of alliteration and repetition in the poem. So we've come to the end of our lovely poem, The Song of the Woman of My Land by Oumar Farouk Sesay. In our next class, we're going to be looking at the themes in this lovely poem. So until then, it's bye for now.